As many of you know, I consider myself a libertarian, which means I'm not really a conservative and I'm not really a liberal. I sort of identify with both and neither at the same time in different ways. So what I want to do is just give a very basic introduction to what it means to be a libertarian. You can summarize the political philosophy in one principle, that human freedom is preferable to coercion. And libertarians simply take this principle and we apply it consistently across the board to all areas of human life. So in the realm of economic action, let's say, libertarians want to maximize human freedom and minimize human coercion. What that means concretely speaking is we support the right for individuals to create and enforce their own contracts, their own private agreements between themselves. So the typical example would be something like the minimum wage. What's the libertarian position on the minimum wage? Well, the libertarian says the exchange between the employer and the employee and one party agreeing to sell their labor to the other party is purely voluntary and up to the individuals involved, and they can agree at whatever rate they think is appropriate. In other words, we don't support the minimum wage at all. Whatever rate the employer and the employee voluntarily agree on, there's no coercion going on here. Whatever they agree on, that's the rate that it should be. And there are all kinds of economic reasons, strict economic reasons, why not having a minimum wage is far preferable to having a minimum wage. I'll cover those in a later video. So in the social sphere of human interaction, libertarians want to maximize human freedom, minimize human coercion. What does that mean? Well, it means as long as your social behavior is peaceful, meaning it's not coercive, you're not infringing on other people's rights, you should be free to act as you please, even if that upsets a lot of people. So let's take a popular example, the use of drugs. Libertarians say, well, as long as your drug use does not infringe on somebody else's rights, as long as you're not driving while inebriated and crashing into people's houses or snorting cocaine and going and breaking into a store, as long as you are peacefully using drugs, even if I might disagree with it, you should be free to do so. And again, there are a ton of economic reasons why this is preferable to getting the government involved. But just on the basic libertarian ethical principle, we simply say, as long as it's peaceful, though I may disagree and though it may rub my religion the wrong way, it should be permissible by law. And I'll just add one note here that when you live in a large society, millions of people, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people, even thousands of people, everybody, each individual is going to come into that society with their own value system, their own beliefs, their own religions. You're going to have at some level some kind of multiculturalism. And the libertarian says, and I very strongly agree, there's only one way, literally, that people from different cultures and different value systems can live peacefully with one another. That way is through the absence of government. So, for example, I'll give you a concrete example. In the field of religion, say that we have, a big majority of Christians in a population, and then some Muslims, and then some Buddhists, and then some atheists and whatnot. If the government gets involved and says, indirectly or directly, Christianity is going to be the state religion, or the Christians that get these kind of legal benefits, but the Muslims don't get these kind of legal benefits, you're going to have a political war going on, even if it's peaceful. You're going to have all kinds of lobbying. You're going to have one group's going to benefit, one group is going to lose, essentially because the government's involved in it. But there's an alternative. Get the government out. Have the government take no sides on social issues. The same case could be made for gay marriage, could be made for drugs, could be made across the board. Get the government out, and that results in peace and cooperation. So another important area of libertarian thought is in foreign policy or international affairs. And the same principle applies. Maximize human freedom, minimize human coercion, maximize peaceful cooperation amongst individuals. And concretely what that means is mind your own business, essentially. Don't meddle in the affairs of other countries that are acting peacefully. If you're acting peacefully, trade, relatively speaking, open borders, allow people to freely move in and out of your country, as that raises everybody's standard of living for economic reasons, and it promotes peace. And this is a wonderful segue into the different genres of libertarianism. It's a very big umbrella when you get into it. You have all kinds of very impassioned, striations on the libertarian spectrum, as you do with any other political philosophy. On the one end, you have some libertarians which say the appropriate role of government is to set up kind of the rules of the game for human society. And as long as people play by those rules, government's not going to intervene. You have a minimal state. They'll often say something like, you know, you have to have the government for a police system, for a court system, and maybe for national defense. So you can essentially enforce contracts, be the police, and protect from foreign invasion. But other than that, laissez-faire, as they say. It's kind of the one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, you have people like me and a large group of people and a large growing group of people that are very excited about this particular idea that says, you know what? Government is entirely unnecessary. Or the way that I like to put it when I give talks on this topic is all of the services currently provided by governments can be more efficiently and ethically provided by private entrepreneurs. Or to use a scary term, anarchism. Of course, anarchism in this context doesn't mean bomb-throwing hooligans who overturn cars and set fire to buildings and that kind of stuff. In this context, anarchism in the libertarian context is meant quite literally. It just means without rulers. Doesn't mean without rules. You still have the rules of the game. You still have the enforcement of contracts. You still have the protection of private property, all of which emerges from a marketplace, which I won't go into. I won't defend that right here. But anarchism simply means without one centralized monopoly calling the shots. So there you have the very short overview of what it essentially means to be a libertarian. I'll go into a lot more detail on this topic and how it relates to conservatism and leftism and whatnot, but that's a time for another video.